and welcome to this week's YouTube video. This week I'm going to talk about how I painted this beagle in a limited palette. So before we look at the time-lapse video, I wanted to explain the palette briefly that I used. I have three warm primaries. These are cadmium yellow, cadmium red, ultramarine deep. This one is not a warm colour, but it is a colour. I then have three cooler primaries. These are alizarin crimson, yellow ochre light and ivory black. So you can mix warm and cool palettes together, such as cadmium red, yellow ochre light and black. But it's worth knowing that the warmer colours will mix you much more saturated colours and the cooler palette will give a much more muted colours. So you need to know what temperatures you are trying to mix, and this will affect which palette you use. This painting then leans more heavily on a warmer palette, that is cadmium red, cadmium yellow, ultramarine deep. I would have struggled to get those browns without the inclusion of cadmium yellow and cadmium red. I should also add that I am using zinc titanium white in my palette also. This is also quite a tricky painting, but I will explain why this is the case as we go along. So let's start painting then. If you have watched my videos before, you will know that I paint in layers. So this painting was done in 4 layers. And I will show you a photo of the painting after every layer. To start with, on layer 1, I will always do a very loose underpainting to really get everything in place and help me with the values. I'm using the paints thinned down with gamsol, so it is a very transparent layer. I want to try and keep the freshness of my coloured layers, so that'll be layers 2, 3 and 4. And a heavy underpainting will mute my paint, which is not what I personally want. The benefits of doing an underpainting is that the eye struggles to see colour and value at the same time. So by splitting this process up, I think it is making it a bit easier. The downside is that it can affect the freshness of your colours, so you really need to weigh up whether using this method is right for you. I should have also said that the underpainting is painted in raw umber and a little bit of white, and the paper was covered in a wash of raw sienna plus gamsol before I started. Okay then, so layer 2 is where I start adding the colour, and I am now limiting myself to my warm primary palette, that is cadmium yellow, cadmium red and ultramarine deep. I am using my colours very terps down with the mineral spirits. I am just attempting to get some colour on there. I want to get rid of all the monochrome as it is affecting how I see this painting, because remember, in order to be able to judge colour, you need to be able to judge it according to what is next to it, and seeing the correct colour is very hard when the colour next to the area that you are painting is so obviously wrong. So I am just working my way up to what I think I am seeing. I am not going in all at once. You can if you want to, but I find this method works better for me. Layer 2 is a very quick layer, maybe 30 minutes of painting. So here it is. I will leave this and I will have another go at it tomorrow. So layer 3 then, I have replaced my gamsol with linseed oil, which I'm using quite sparingly. I'm also making sure in between cleaning the paint off my brush, I'm giving it a good wipe to try and remove as much of the mineral spirits as possible. I don't want to be unintentionally thinning my paint. Layer 3 is where I begin to do all my hard work. It is my most longest layer. At the beginning of this video, I said this was a tricky painting, so I just want to explain now why this is the case. So firstly then, there is a lot of white on this dog, and so this is going to have to be controlled with your temperature shifts. The dog's chest area is very similar in tone and temperature to the dog's muzzle, and it's competing for attention. If I am not careful and I treat these areas the same, the muzzle will blend into the chest area. The second problem area that I face is the value of the dog's nose directly competing with the value of the harness. And I have the same problem here. If I treat them the same, I will have a nose that is overpowered by a harness. So what can I do then to avoid these problems? Well, the answer lies in my cool and warm palettes. I need to use my most saturated colours for the areas I want to highlight. Remember that cool colours recede and warm colours come forward. For the dog's nose, I have mixed a rich black. I have made sure I have packed as much colour into that area as possible. For the dog's harness, I have used my ivory black with my warm palette. This effectively deadens my colours and prevents the areas competing with each other, as one is rich in colour and the other is not. There is also an area of really intense blue on the dog's harness. I have mixed cerulean blue into my ultramarine just to get that pop of colour. For the white areas of the dog, this is a little harder to explain, and so often in painting things are done by what looks right, and this is pretty much how I have had to approach this area, a bit of trial and error. However, the principle of colours I have used are either a white leaning on red or purple, a white leaning on blue, or a white leaning on yellow or blue, so a green really. And you'll notice how it shifts between these different colours. If I show you a photo of the finished painting, you'll see it more clearly. It took me quite a while to figure this area out, and my layers 3 and 4 ended up being about the same length in time, as I had struggled to get the majority of my painting done in layer 3, so I had to go back in for another go. And sometimes this is how it is, just a lot of looking and trying to figure out what's not correct and how to fix it. Sometimes it takes multiple attempts before I get it right. I just have to go through all the possibilities in my head of what I think it could be wrong. So, is it the value? Is it the colour? Is it the temperature? Is it my edges? It will always be one of those things. I just have to work systematically through the painting until I figure out which one it is. So here it is then, the finished painting. I hope you have found this video useful. Please like and subscribe if you can, and check out my website sarahhallidayart.com, where you will find examples of my work and details of online classes that I run. Thank you for watching, and see you for the next one.